Can't start till you say it.
Sup, Craig?
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Juice and the Numbers, your Statistics in Sports podcast. No, your Statistics in Ports. This is the Vote podcast.
Art Vandelay?
He's importing and exporting. But he's thinking about dropping the importing.
We cannot drop Seinfeld references, though.
It's that all we have. Forever. Oh, man. And Greg's trying to get in here.
You know what? I think we should.
All right, you know what? All right, so we're gonna get an impromptu guest appearance from Greg Patempa if he can figure out how to join Discord because he's asking. Greg?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, we hear you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not much. We're about to talk about baseball Hall of Famers or people who are on the ballot this year. And the loving memory of famed baseballer Dick Allen. You know anything about any of this?
No, but I would be interested if you. I don't want to jump anything in your show right now, but I would be interested to just hear who is on the ballot and just a really quick really hot take. Who's on the ballot and who's getting into the Hall of Fame?
All right, Greg, I can give that to you super quick. All right,
I'm in the middle of doing work on a Sunday evening, so I figured, hey, I saw you message somebody that told you to join. I was like, you know what? If they're recording right now, I just want to come up and say what's up.
Hey, you know what? We're about it. All right, Greg. Here's the ballot. All right. Curt Schilling, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Omar Vizquel, Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner, Gary Sheffield, Todd Helton, Manny Ramirez, Jeff Kent, Andrew Jones, Sammy Sosa, Andy Pettitte, Bobby Abreu, Tim Hudson, Mark Buehrle, Torrey Hunter, Dan Herron, Barry Zito, Aramis Ramirez, Shane Victorino, AJ Burnett, Nick Swisher, LaTroy Hawkins, and Michael Cudyer. That is the 2021 Hall of Fame ballot.
That was a hell of a list. And actually, Caroline's behind me. She just said Roger Clemens, obviously. But I would like to hear it. Now, just give me your hot take on who you think is going to be in it. I can give you a quick hot take of mine.
Well, Clemens, Schilling, and Bonds, this is all of their 9th years. They've all been held out for various reasons. Corwin and I talked about this on the podcast, I think, last year when we did this. Mm-hmm. Schilling is being held out because he's an asshole, and Clemens and Bonds are being held out because of steroids, which is why they're in their 9th year, even though each of them have over 100 WAR. The person we're going to be discussing mostly today that's on this list is probably Omar Vizquel because he's kind of a controversial figure for being on this ballot in terms of defense versus offensive production. Andy Pettitte doubled his WAR percent of ballots from last year to this year. So he might have a shot. Andrew Jones, it's shocking he's not already in the Hall of Fame, given this is his 4th appearance on the list. I think Mark Buehrle is an underrated pick to be in, since everyone with a perfect game pretty much is in the Hall of Fame. So I think he probably deserves it. Actually, that's not true. That's not even close to true. I might have to amend that later. So
that's what gets amends in the episodes? That's what gets edited? Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not editing it out, but I'm issuing the caveat that that's probably wrong.
All right, I'll accept those terms.
A lot of these guys, from 15 to 25, those bottom 10 names that I read, it's all of their first year on the ballot, and just looking over, the only guy I could see on that list maybe getting in is Mark Buehrle. Everyone else pretty much doesn't have a shot. I love Nick Swisher, but Nick Swisher isn't going to the Hall of Fame.
I was gonna say I feel like Andy Pettitte is still really young. I feel like he was just in the league.
Yeah, well, this is only his 3rd year on the ballot, so he's pretty this is pretty fresh. I mean, he's only been out of baseball for 8 years. Hasn't even been a decade yet.
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well. Corwin, what's your quick hot take, and then I'll give you my hot take and let you guys be.
I do think Bonds and Clemens should get in despite the steroids allegation. No, because they took steroids. I hope they get in, but I still genuinely don't think they will. I do think Mark Buehrle deserves to get in, but I don't necessarily think he's going to get in this year. I just don't think he's a first ballot kind of guy.
Agree. Very much so agree.
Hot take. I guess Kurt Schilling would be a yes for me, although maybe it is because he's an asshole. I don't love the idea. I wouldn't be upset if he didn't make it in at all. It's just kind of one of those, yeah, I guess so kind of deals. But I do think Omar Vizquel should, because I think defense is very much underrated in the Hall of Fame. And he played for the Indians, so.
I have a very hot take, and I have no opinions on anybody, and if they should get in over somebody else. But my one hot take is that, and it sounds like you guys have already discussed this, is that the fact that Sammy Sosa is on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, with the steroid use in it, I don't think he deserves it, honestly, because as a child who kind of grew up seeing Sammy Sosa's and the Barry Bonds. Yeah, Barry Bonds too. You guys said his name's on that list too, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, him and even Mark McGwire. Like Mark McGwire, I remember like reading a book about him in like third grade and having to do it as my book report, and was so excited that I got to pick the one sports-related interesting book in the classroom, only to find out years later, steroids. So my hot take is that they should not be in the Hall of Fame, and there's a reason there's an asterisk next to their placement on the home run record list.
That's a hot take, Greg. That's a hot take.
But I appreciate you letting me jump in. I'm going to jump back onto work and let you guys be, unless there's something else you.
Well, yeah. Here's a point. Corey and I were actually going to talk about it at the end of the episode, but we can just bring it up now. Did you see Sarah Muller? I think was her name. The woman who just became the first. Yeah, she's a kicker at was it Vanderbilt, right?
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Caroline's all over that, and she's mouthing it to the other side of the room.
Yeah, we really didn't have too much to say about it, other than it's a really great story, and it's a huge glass ceiling, and this is the exact position I think we would have seen the first female college football athlete take up. Since women can fucking kick, man, like serious, like there is a lot of power in those fucking kicks, man. Having worked as a martial arts instructor for a very long time, so
I have two things. Okay, so first one, the biggest, I hate to be a negative Nancy devil's advocate, but I guess not really a devil's advocate, but the biggest shame is that after she had the first kick, the kick for the kickoff, and it was originally announced, you saw all of the Facebook posts that were like, "Oh, she's a girl, get her off the field. I would ram or tackle her, or whatever." Like, just some like really nasty. It's just so fucking unnecessary. I'm sorry if we don't curse on this podcast.
Oh, of course we curse. Yeah, it's totally unnecessary. It's lame. It's shitty.
It's so crazy that there's people in this world that were just kind of, didn't recognize it for a big next step, and something, people will make that argument of like, "Oh my gosh, she's a girl, she can't be as strong as the guy, whatever." But if her sole purpose on the field is to kick, and she might happen to get tackled, like, dude, first of all, that's the fucking game, and second of all, good for her. The fact that she's willing to take a hit like that is fucking awesome. Like, good, that's great. That's why rugby women players are fucking. So.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not in the abstract, like, what if she gets hit? Like, she goes to practice. I'm sure she practices and sometimes gets hit at practice, and her teammates understand that, and her coach understands that, and she understands that, and then they put her in a game. It's not like, what if she gets hit? She is a football player at a very high level. I'm sure she understands what will happen if she gets hit. The same thing that happens when any of us get hit. It hurts a little bit, and then you keep playing.
Exactly.
Kickers don't really get hit at practice. Like maybe they did with her because she never would have before, but they usually go out of their way to keep those players from get hit.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah.
And so
not to be like the actually guy, but
oh no, you're totally right. Practically speaking, they absolutely wouldn't. I could see them, having her get acclimated to some contact, just because I'm sure they're going to be facing some teams with some really douche-baggish guys who are like going to be like those dudes on Instagram who are like, "I'm going to fucking cream her," and then show how super tough they are by hitting.
No, Josh. They want to cream on her.
Both. Yeah.
Different kind of anger. Different kind of anger.
Come on, man.
But yeah, in all likelihood, as a kicker, she's not getting drilled at practice.
No,
you
as
can't
are the
lose
guys
your
on
fucking
Twitter
kicker.
after practice.
Haha. But
Can I
yeah,
give you
so.
Can I give you my
Man.
second hot?
Oh yeah, Greg, lay it on us.
Ready? So you mentioned something that's like, yeah, women can kick, like they can kick the shit out of the ball. Guess what I did today, Josh?
What'd you do, Greg?
Take a guess. What would I do on a nice, sunny, beautiful day when I have some
I'm
time
gonna
off?
guess disc golf, Greg.
Played some disc golf today, and may I first say I played awful. Caroline knows this because I've been grumpy about it since I've been home. But I wanted to say because I played tags where you kind of get grouped up with other people.
Oh, Greg, we lost you. Oh,
Damn
no.
it, Craig! You made us lose Greg.
Oh, Greg, we can't hear you. Yeah. What's funny is his audio quality got a lot better right before he cut out.
Yeah. Internet was like, we'll give it to him right before we got off.
It gives and it takes.
Like, she threw the fucking shit
Wait,
out
Greg, hold on. We lost you for right when you started talking about right after you said that you were grumpy because you had a bad round today. So what'd you say?
Hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Greg,
We can
are
hear
you
you.
okay?
Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was all grumpy, whatever. I had a really shitty day, but I played with this. Did you hear? I played with this woman. Did you hear this at all?
No.
I played with this woman named Kelly, and she's a little bit of an older woman. You know, not much older. She's got to be like late 40s, maybe early 50s. But we played long to long, and playing long to long, if you want to equate it to normal golf, is pretty much from playing from the black tee, like playing from all the way in the back. You know what I mean, Josh?
Okay. Yeah.
She, on some of these long to long holes, was throwing the shit out of this disc and kicking the shit out of all of us. So, you know, it's interesting. The reason I bring that up is because, you know, you talked about, you know, she can kick the fucking shit out of the ball. You know, we're starting to find some of these niche things that we haven't been able to find out before about what women actually have the potential to be better at than men from a athletic standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that she's their next best option shows that there is no other male on that team available who could kick the ball like that for a field goal or a kickoff. You know?
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
what's the next one going to be?
Pitcher.
Right? Are they going to,
Yeah.
are they going to think that maybe a woman would be better at goalie in soccer than a man would be? You know, even with every single man available?
I mean, if we're talking
Well,
about
I feel like that's
men's team,
different
they have
because
women,
there is
would be
men
good.
and women's soccer.
Right,
Like with baseball, like yes, there's softball, but it's such a different kind
Whole
of
different
sport,
sport, yeah.
and type of pitching.
Literally
It
different.
wouldn't naturally equate in my mind, but there's still, you know, a clear
yeah, you're right.
connection
I see what
between
you're
the
saying,
two.
because with a field goal kicker, you're kind of kicking towards a stationary goal already. Whereas with, my example as like a goalie, there might be the potential of different velocity on that kick than,
Right.
you know what I mean? So that's an interesting point you bring up too, Corwin.
And I will say, like, if there was one of the three of us, or one of, anyone that I know that could play foot, it's going to be Caroline over any one of the three of us, right? Like, she's clearly tougher and more athletic than any one of us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, she is a very strong girl. She knows it too.
For people who don't know Greg and Caroline personally, Caroline is Greg's fiance.
She wants to know what we're talking about.
We're talking about you. Get used to it.
Yes, she has a far better workout regimen than all of us. She can her way to schedule is much better, and it's
she does it for a living now. So she better be better at it than us.
And she is.
And she is.
And she is.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
So, well, I apologize for getting cut off in the middle of my second hot take, but I appreciate you guys having me on for a hot minute.
Yeah,
Hey, man, no need to apologize. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, like
Josh.
you clearly don't listen because it happens to us literally every episode. It's
Oh, yeah.
Oh, does it really? Good.
All the time.
Excellent.
Greg kind of sucks at his job.
Yeah.
Who sucks at my job?
Craig.
Who's Craig? Oh.
The guy
the
we
robot who
record with.
records our podcasts. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Craig. Josh, text me when you're done. I want to talk to you. It might be time for us to buy our own podcast equipment.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah,
well, hey,
I need to
if you
upgrade
do
the
it, let us
microphone.
know. We can start promoting your show on our show.
We'll start. We'll be part of the. Yeah, we'll join the juicing network.
Oh, there you go, man. It'll be the fourth podcast on the network. We're a real conglomerate.
And I don't know if you have it. I don't know
Watch
if
out,
you
John
actually
Boy,
have.
we're coming for you.
I know, seriously, right? I was watching him the other day, but yeah, we'll be part of the juicing network. And if you haven't changed the name of your network to the juicing network yet, I think it's time to.
We can have our own branded juicers.
Our own branded juicers. It's our next
watch
step
out, Ninja. Here we come.
It's our next step into the big world. But let me get out of here, so I let you guys be.
All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you for a little bit. This was a fun, impromptu, I don't know, chit chat.
Yes, I wanted to make up for my last podcast appearance.
You can tell you were not high and Googling disc golf equipment this time.
Can you edit that part out?
No.
Bye.
All right, bye, Greg. That was fun.
You know he is now very worried because you said no.
Oh yeah, he's scared. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure everyone at his office knows that he is a very big smoker. Because I don't think there's any. Yeah, and if not, now they do.
Listen.
Yeah. I highly doubt anybody who's a big smoker is surrounded by people who don't know that they're a big smoker. So, yeah.
Hi,
all right.
Mom.
Hey, what's going on, Mrs. Heller?
It's funny,
right.
like she'll tell me like every now and again, like, "Hey, I watched this episode or so and so episode," and it's just like, "Oh, God, what did I say then?" Because it's like if she listened to every episode, you know what she heard, but like if she just listens to like one or two, you never know what you need to cover for.
Yep. I promise. I was talking about somebody else.
Yes, Mom. No. These aren't drugs in the drug sense. These are study medicine and make more money.
I was high on baby aspirin.
Yeah.
Why is it so strong?
Should we talk about sports on this sports podcast?
I was going to say, this is so not what we were planning on doing today. But that's okay, man. This is the wild world of improvisational podcasting. All right. I guess before we get into... let's start with actual Hall of Fame voting. So I wanted to start with Omar Vizquel, as I mentioned briefly while Greg appeared on the show. Because I feel like I've been seeing it more and more on Twitter than I used to, which is a lot of people our age, Corwin and my age, like really rallying against the idea of having Omar on the ballot or in the hall, because defense doesn't matter versus the reality that he is on pace to eventually make it based on the fact that he got 52.6% of the votes in his most recent year, which was his third year. So he's going into his fourth. So that is
he's already up to 52.5 points, this year, it looks like.
Yeah, so Baseball Reference, that is last year's votes that are here. Yeah, it threw me for a loop too, because if you go to like 2022, those same percentages are there. So I think it's just like the most recent year that populates there.
Gotcha. Wasn't sure if it was, how some votes get released early or get
Yeah,
leaked, whatever.
yeah, that was my exact
Um,
question too. With the fucking early votes. But so I figured we could spend some time talking about the debate around Omar Vizquel, because it's a really interesting conversation. So, shall we?
yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we've mentioned before, but I'm definitely open to talking about again.
All
And
right,
I'm just talking slow today.
I understand. All right, so let's talk about Omar. I'm trying to find his defense stats on Fangraphs. Batted ball, win probability, pitch type, pitch info, pitch velocity, plate discipline, fielding. Here we go. The only thing that matters when talking about Omar Vizquel.
Well,
uh,
I don't know if I get the joke, but I will say, you can't be voted in just on defense. If he was as awful as on offense as, a Chris Davis, I don't think we have the what's the term? This discussion about what am I saying? About him getting into the Hall of Fame, but because, he was able to hit a ball every now and again. It's not that much of a detractor keeping him out on its own.
right. So let's look at where he's at. So first part, let's talk about the offense then, because I think that's the easiest thing to wrap our head around. It's the thing that we talk about on the show the most. It's a thing you probably see on Twitter the most, or on up on chyrons in sports, in the actual baseball games and whatnot. It's what we're used to.
Right.
So first off, Omar Vizquel played for 24 seasons. He played from 1989 to 2012.
Holy
Start
shit.
and started his career when he was 22. He didn't even start like some 18-year wonderlic. He started at 22 and retired at 45. He was in baseball for a very long time. And actually, I changed my mind. That's where I want to start. The idea of the long career, because there really is something to say about that. And now I'm not saying that this is like everyone who plays over 20 seasons should make the Hall of Fame, because that's goofy and unnecessary. But at the same time, like, you know what? Let's actually back it up even fucking further. What does the Hall of Fame mean to you?
What is the Hall of Fame? In my mind, I would say a Hall of Fame berth or a Hall of Fame, acceptance is saying this player is so important to baseball and has made such an impact on baseball during their career, baseball would not be the same without them. And I'm not saying, each one of these players needs to be a game changer the way, Barry Bonds or Babe Ruth or Randy Johnson were, any one of these crazy guys who were so dominant it changed the way we approach batters or approach pitchers and things like that. But guys like Omar Vizquel who were so good defensively, it changed the game when they played. Guys like Mike Trout who are so good at everything, it changes the game when they play, and do that for a significant period of time where that impact is I guess almost the reputation. Obviously we don't have anything specific that's like, okay, you reach these marks with this efficiency, you're in the hall. But that's what I look for.
I agree. And I think that the real question is, what do you look at to meet those kind of criteria? Like, what are you looking at within a person's career that says that, yes, this person had a meaningful impact on baseball, that is worthy of induction? And I think WAR is the easiest way of doing that, because
Mhm.
it is straight up production, you know. But there's other things about it too. And I'm not saying that a 24-year long career means that you should go to the Hall of Fame, but at the same time, like, that's really uncommon. Like, that's, I know it's not WAR, it's not efficiency or production or any of that shit. But it is really saying something about how that guy was valued. And I understand that our approach to value of baseball players over time has changed. But again, still, I mean, that says, you know how many batters in the Hall of Fame, or I guess I should say position players in the Hall of Fame, not strictly batters, have played 24 or more seasons in baseball?
I do not.
I can count them right now. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 players.
Wow.
Yeah, Omar would be the 7th position player with 24 years or more of service in the MLB.
Now that's incredible. I never would have guessed it would be that low of a number. Like I am not trying to be, hyperbolic like I usually am. Like I genuinely would have guessed nowhere near 6.
Yeah. Cap Anson played 27. Eddie Collins played for 25. Rookie Henderson played for 25. Bobby Wallace played for 25. Ty Cobb played for 24. Carlton Fisk 24. Hank Aaron 23. My bad. And then we have a couple pitchers on this list as well. Nolan Ryan played for 27 years. Steve Carlton played for 24 years. Dennis Eckersley for 24, and Phil Necro for 24. And again, I'm not saying that alone warrants him going, because I'm sure, it's tough to search out service time. But I'm sure we can find some people who played for 24 seasons and weren't the best players in the planet and don't deserve to be there. But it certainly is an indicator in my mind. For reference,
Absolutely.
the average service time of a baseball Hall of Famer is 18 seasons. So you need 10 to qualify. Huh?
No, finish what you said.
I was going to say, you need 10 to qualify, so obviously it's going to skew to over that. There are a decent number of players with fewer than 10 years of service time that are on this registry that I'm looking at right now, but there's some very obvious exceptions here, like Satchel Paige only has 6, but he only has 6 MLB seasons. He had a bunch of Negro League seasons. Same thing with Monte Irvin.
Did he have a waiver for the rule, or did they count Negro League seasons?
I think it's kind of like a waiver type situation. Same thing, and I'm not saying that there's an official actual waiver, but I think it's a similar situation to Lou Gehrig getting put into the Hall of Fame the year he retired, because there was extenuating circumstances. You know what I mean? I'd say it's more along those lines.
I just learned out that speech was impromptu. It wasn't a written speech. He just went up there, and that's just what his heart was saying at the time. And that's fascinating to me. Yeah.
Because it's gut-wrenching, and it's beautiful.
For
anyone unaware, Lou Gehrig's farewell speech at Yankee Stadium, you can find it on YouTube. It's a wonderful speech. You can find sections of it on YouTube, which I find as being bizarre. There's a longer version that is written down somewhere. I'm sure you can Google it and figure it out. But anyway, all right. So Omar Vizquel, 24 seasons, and the other crazy part about these 24 seasons is that there's not a lot of teams here. It's 6 teams over the course of 24 years. He played his first 5 seasons with Seattle. Then he played 11 with Cleveland, and then 4 with the Giants, 1 with Texas, 2 with the White Sox, and retired with Toronto. And it's not like 24 wacky, here, there, everywhere type seasons. He played for 3 teams in his last 4 seasons, but before that, remarkable consistency, long term to some extent everywhere he went.
Right. I think even 3 teams in the last 4 seasons even points out further how incredible it is playing for that many teams for that long, because it does taper off at the end with a bunch thrown in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So was it 4 over the first 20 seasons?
He played, yeah. I'm just checking my math. Yeah, 20 seasons. Actually, 3 teams in 20 seasons.
There you go.
3 teams in 20 seasons. I mean, that's fucking nuts. Wow, that's very impressive. I gotta say. All right, so now let's actually get into his offense because this is where things are going to look pretty different. Yeah. So the average MLB Hall of Famer has oh damn it, I lost it. Oh, there it is. 226 home runs. Again, home runs not the end all be all of the baseball world, but still a milestone that is oft tracked when we look at home runs or when we look at a Hall of Fame resume. Omar Vizquel has a career home run total of 80.
It's hard to ignore. And like as much as I am on, obviously the Omar Vizquel Hall of Fame train, it's hard to overlook because it is a very low number.
Yeah, I mean, shockingly low. He has 4 seasons with 0 home runs. He has another 4 seasons with 1 home run. He has 6 seasons with 2 home runs. It's a 162 game average pace of 4 home runs per season.
Not what you would want from a top of the order batter, but you have a guy like Andrelton Simmons or these defensive first guys, that's acceptable. Especially a slap hitter like him.
And if you were to put him in the rankings, he would have the 146th fewest home runs in the Hall of Fame. He'd be nestled right between George Kell and Nap Lajoie, whom I believe we've talked about on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, which is something. Let's look at his stolen bases because I'm kind of curious. He has 404 stolen bases, which where does that stack up against our MLB average Hall of Fame batter? Stolen bases. Wait, where am I? Oh shit. Oh, there it is. Okay. 225. All right, so he's above average there. That counts for something.
He has as many stolen bases as the average Hall of Famer has home runs. Essentially.
No, he has more. He has about almost double. I think the average home runs I said was like 226.
I thought you just said 225 stolen bases.
No, he has 404 stolen bases.
Where the fuck did I get 225 from? Jesus Christ.
I have no idea where you. Oh, the average MLB Hall of Famer has 225 stolen bases. Omar has 404.
Yikes.
Suck a dick. God damn it. I can't get that right. All right, so let's look at his so he's a career. Let's look at his career slash line. Career slash line of 272. That's not bad. 336. That's not great. 352. That's bad. For a 688 OPS and an OPS plus for his career of 82. He has 2 seasons over a 100 OPS. He has 1 season below 50 and a couple of seasons right around 50. But that's it. He was a league average or better hitter in 2 seasons. 1999, his age 32 season, and 2002, his age 35 season. The slash line of your average MLB Hall of Famer will look like this. It's 302. So Omar's got that beat with his no, actually, no, he doesn't. I was wrong. So he's shy of that by 30 points. An on-base percentage of 376. He's shy of that by about 40 points. And a slugging percent of 465. And so he's off of that by about 100 points. Good for an OPS of 841. Omar is off of that by about 160 points. So it's not close. Sorry, 100. Yeah, no, I was right. 160. It's not close. Now, let's I'm curious. Let's sort this by OPS and see where Omar would find himself. 688. All right, that would put him the 100th lowest OPS, even, right between Bob Lemon and Bobby Wallace. I don't know either of those people. But he has a higher OPS than Ozzie Smith, and that's interesting.
Right. Because Ozzie Smith has never really been debated as being a Hall of Famer.
Right. So Ozzie Smith's OPS plus for his career is 87, only 5 points higher than Omar. His slash line 262, 337, 328 for a 666 OPS. So it's actually a lower OPS than Omar's, but a slightly higher OPS plus due to, I'm going to assume, like era adjustments or whatnot. How the average hitter was faring in the 1970s and 80s versus the 90s and 2000s. Anyway, so now obviously there is a large discrepancy between these two players. As highly as Corwin and I both think of Omar Vizquel, Omar Vizquel sitting at 45.6 WAR in his career, Ozzie Smith 76.9. He was the wizard for a reason, ridiculous levels of production from the dude. But the main point here being that they're both not offense first dudes. They were both defenders. So Corwin, is there anything else you'd like to hear about Omar Vizquel's offense before we pivot over to defense?
I guess not. I mean, do they have like WOBA stats?
Let's do a search-a-rooney here.
Or WRC plus?
Yeah, so Omar Vizquel's WOBA is 310, WRC plus of 83.
So, again, not great. We knew it wouldn't be great, but, pretty much on par, nothing majorly different from, the rest of his plus stats or rate stats.
What I think is fascinating is that despite the fact that Baseball Reference and Fangraphs do their DWAR pretty differently, if I recall correctly, I don't recall how they do it offhand, but I remember it being relatively disparate. Their WAR total for Omar Vizquel is pretty similar. 42.5 from Fangraphs and 45.6 for Baseball Reference, which is very interesting. That means that would have to mean that they both are going to speak pretty highly of his fielding, since his bat is not carrying him in any sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it. Let's dig into the into the defense. Actually, wait, hold on.
Was that meant to be a pun?
No, but I like it as a pun. This is actually really interesting. You know what Omar Vizquel's career OWAR is?
No.
I want you to give me a figure.
Career OWAR.
OWAR for reference is offense WAR. If you hear us say OWAR, it's offense. DWAR is defense. You know.
See, it's tough because I know he's like a Hall of Fame level defender, but what does that entail for? Because we're so used to seeing negative defensive WAR as just being a norm. I don't know where I would think a Hall of Fame level defensive, especially with such a long career, where that WAR would stand. So I don't know whether I should. I don't know. I don't even know how to guess this.
His OWAR is 32.9.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that's what I would have guessed, but at the same time, like I get it. Like 10 DWAR over career, 15 DWAR, whatever it was, is incredible.
Oh no, his DWAR is 29.5.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then I just cannot remember numbers today because I'm all over the fucking place.
Yeah, so his OWAR is about 33 and his DWAR is about 30. That's pretty impressive. I'm not quite sure where he's losing because obviously those two numbers add up to be more than 60. So obviously,
right.
Corwin and I have talked about this where Baseball Reference's WAR totals don't seem to ever add up fully correctly, and I have no idea where they lose numbers from. But yeah, I mean that's really impressive. So I'm going to read off also Ozzie Smith's, and I'm going to read off also Derek Jeter's to get a full picture of what our kind of shortstop branches look like here. So Ozzie Smith had a lifetime OR of 48.8. So he's beating out Omar by a pretty handsome amount. That's 16 WAR over 5 fewer seasons. He also beats out Omar in DWAR, 44.2 DWAR to Omar's 29.5. Again, though, this is Ozzie Smith, who's probably the best defensive shortstop of all time. But a guy who got in very heavily based on defense. And I don't know where that DWAR puts him amongst shortstops all time, but I mean, goddamn, like it's impressive. For reference, Derek Jeter, OWAR, 96.3, DWAR, negative 9.4.
Wow. I feel like I always forget his stats almost immediately after we discuss them on the pod. Like, we discuss them fairly often, but I always seem to forget exactly how they play out.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, nothing really added, just, that's how it is.
Yeah, it's because his stats are very boring. Like, it's not to say that they're bad, it's just to say that they are boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he had a high batting average. He didn't get a lot of home runs. He got enough that it wasn't like super low, but he didn't get enough that it was like, hey, look at all those home runs. So it's like, eh. For reference, Omar Vizquel ranks 9th all time in DWAR for all players.
I thought he'd be higher.
Well,
Granted,
that's for all players.
That is still incredible, but I guess I would have thought him to be just an ounce higher than 9, even though that's just me being, I don't know what the right term for it is, just out of my mind, thinking that that's any way considered a negative.
And if we look at the top 10 being Ozzie Smith, Mark Belanger, Brooks Robinson, Cal Ripken, Joe Tinker, Luis Aparicio, Rabbit Marinville? What the fuck?
Ivan Rodriguez. That is the name.
It's not. You're right. Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge, Omar Vizquel, and Bobby Wallace. Everybody in the top 10, with the exception of Mark Belanger and Omar Vizquel, are in the Hall of Fame.
Which, mightily impressive.
Yeah. Mark Belanger has 40.9 career WAR. So that is less than Omar. His OPS plus for his career was 68. I don't think he's getting in. He also, he retired in 1982. So if he's not in by now, he's never getting in pretty much. But the others are like, Brooks Robinson was a lock. Cal Ripken Jr. was a lock. Joe Tinker, I've never heard of before. Luis Aparicio, I don't know either. Actually, Luis Aparicio is basically Omar Vizquel. Hold on. He has a career OPS plus of 82. He has a career WAR of 55.9, which is 10 more than Omar's, but at the same time, who cares? Yeah, I don't know. I think if Luis Aparicio's in there, we should give credit to Omar.
Okay.
Anyway.
Go Omar. Go Luis.
Yeah. I'm about it. Where was I going from here? Oh yeah. Let's take a look at his fielding. From baseball, not baseball reference, from Fangraphs, because I want to see how we're doing with that too. And they're missing all of his Mariners years and most of his Indians years, and I'm not sure what there is to glean from this if those are out there. So, I guess never mind. Yeah. They really the stats on Omar from
not ideal.
No, they're very sparse. Damn. It's a shame. We are spoiled with our current players and how readily available the stats are to judge them.
Think of how much we're going to have in 10 years, 15 years,
It's going to be fucking ridiculous. I'll know when a player's heart rate goes up.
Oh my God. Imagine the fucking stipulations that's going to bring. And just the crazy drama and wild speculation. Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking.
And we all know it's
looking
coming
forward
too.
to it.
Yeah.
The more stats, the better, man.
Well, we're crazy people, so yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Fucking bring it on. So I've read you a lot of numbers from Ozzie Smith and Omar Vizquel and Derek Jeter's here, and the thing, just to make a brief point about Jeter, I love Derek Jeter. I'm a Yankees fan who grew up during the prime of his career. Big Derek Jeter fan. Y'all get it. You've seen the conversations about Jeter from here and elsewhere. He's a very famous guy, and his offense is fine. A career 115 OPS plus. His defense was bad, but looked cool. And he played for a long time. And yeah, he's got the WAR there, but I think part of what the Hall of Fame is about is prestige. And I know that people don't want to think about it that way. We want to be puritists about it because we are an advanced society who can embrace advanced thinking. And again, I'm not convinced Omar should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't like the dismissiveness about it because Omar's really famous in regards to how well he handles defense. He is the standard by which a lot of shortstops are held in regards to their ability to continue to play while being bad with a bat, because Omar did it because his defense made up so much ground that it was acceptable to play him. He's a guy whose name you'll still hear in broadcasts today. And it feels weird knowing that he only retired like 8 years ago, but when his career started in 1989. But I think there's something to be said about that. And I think the fact that his WAR is only 45 doesn't mean as much when it comes from DWAR, which is inherently harder to accumulate. And I think that has a lot of, I don't think one DWAR is worth one OWAR, I don't think it's a one-to-one there.
Like the weights that they carry and the difficulty of earning them and everything involved there is just so wildly different. There's no way I could ever equate the two equally. Quite redundant.
I knew what you meant, though. Because I think people look at the total, and I'm not saying it's wrong inherently, but I'm just not sure it's the most fair way of doing it when you look at the total. You look at Derek Jeter's total WAR, and he's got 96 OWAR and -9 DWAR. And to judge him just based off of one of the three different options of total WAR that we have, it's like people who give Derek Jeter shit because he was hit unfavored by defensive metrics. It's like, yeah, but you're missing the fact that he put up good enough offensive numbers that he is one of the most productive shortstops of all time by hits and home runs and all those things that you would want out of a batter. And people that hype him up as being the greatest shortstop of all time miss the fact that he wasn't the world's greatest defender. There's nuance to all of it. And I think that dismissing Omar because he only has 45 WAR or that he isn't the highest DWAR accumulator of all time, pitifully at number 9, is kind of pathetic because I know we all value as fans offense more than defense. I value offense more than defense. I want Gleyber Torres to stop playing shortstop because I cannot watch that man play defense anymore. And I want him to stick around because his bat matters. But at the same time, we're talking about the merits to be enshrined in a meaningful way based on what you did over the course of your career. Defense has to have some value there, especially when you do it at a really high level for a quarter of a century.
And, you are known, I know it shouldn't be taken into account, but being the face of not only the largest franchise in baseball, but also of the sport and being that sports ambassador, I definitely would think that has some serious weight in its own right. It's, warrants consideration for the Hall of Fame based off of that alone, being the face of the sport for however long Jeter was. I know it's not, a on the field quantifiable stat, but it means something for sure.
It really does. I mean, it really does. And all right, you know what? I'm going to do a really quick exercise because I'm curious.
That sounds like math. I don't really do math.
Nah, I'm not going to be doing math. Fuck that. I ain't not fucking doing math at 6:00 at night on a Sunday.
I love how two guys who basically had math-focused majors both fucking hate math to the extent we do.
Well, the thing is, I really like math when I want to do it, but it's like
Right.
it's like cooking. Like if I want to cook, I fucking love cooking, and if I don't want to cook, it's a fucking chore.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I find that I want to cook far less than I actually have to cook, and that's no fun.
That's just being a person, man. You know what I mean? That's just doing it.
Let me eat out 30 times a week.
Let you
That's
eat
not
out
how many
who?
meals I eat in a week, but you get the idea.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Almost done here.
Almost heaven.
All right.
West Virginia.
Let's look at some of the career leaders in other stats and see who's ninth and decide whether or not they should be in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Career batting average. The ninth highest career batting average is held by a man. Oh my God. What are these names? Is held by a man named Dan Brothers with a U. BROUTHRES.
Oh my God.
Dan Brothers and his 342. Actually, he gives 4 digits to break it down. Is 3.424 lifetime batting average.
3.424.
Yes.
Okay.
He is in the Hall of Fame. Wow, 78.7 WAR. A career
Jesus,
171
wow.
OPS plus. God damn, Mr. Brothers. Wow. So he played from like 1879 to 1904 and spent most of his career with the Buffalo Bisons and the Detroit Wolverines.
Sure.
Also spent time with the Troy Trojans, the Boston Reds, the Brooklyn Grooms, the Baltimore Orioles,
Naturally.
the Louisville Colonels, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the New York Giants. Wait, hold on. Dan Brothers played from age 21 to age 38, 17 years, right? 18 seasons.
Uh-huh.
He then retired, I guess, and then played 2 games with the New York Giants at age 46 in 1904 after not having played since his age 38 season in 1896. In those 2 games, he had 5 plate appearances, 5 at-bats, no hits, no walks, no runs, no nothing. No strikeouts either. Weird.
So non-existent.
Yeah, basically, he might as well have not played. Wow, that's hilarious. Wow, that's nuts. So holy shit. Yeah, so he led the league in OPS. In OPS plus. He led the league in OPS plus from 1882 to 1887. Just fucking 6 years straight leading the league in OPS plus.
All right, so Hall of Fame baseball player, good at baseball. I get it.
Yeah, so the ninth highest batting average of all time, Dan Brothers, probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Let's look at on base percent. The ninth highest on base percent of all time, Ty Cobb, 43-28.
Never heard of him.
Her? Yeah, I would say Ty Cobb deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Ninth highest slugging percent, Mike Trout.
Well, he's not in the Hall of Fame.
He's not yet in the Hall of Fame. Wow, this is actually kind of a wild top 10. All right, here's the top 10 highest slugging percent all time. Number 1, Babe Ruth. Duh. Number 2,
Yeah.
Ted Williams. Duh. Number 3, Lou Gehrig. 4, Jimmy Fox. All 4 of them are in the Hall of Fame. Number 5 is Barry Bonds, not in the Hall of Fame. Also, surprised he's number 5. I really would have thought he'd be like somewhere in the top 3. Anyway, number 6, Hank Greenberg, the Hebrew Hammer. Go Jews. Happy Hanukkah. Number 7, Mark McGwire, not in the Hall of Fame. Number 8, Manny Ramirez, not in the Hall of Fame. Number 9, Mike Trout, not in the Hall of Fame. And number 10, Joe DiMaggio.
Quick sidebar. Was Manny Ramirez, I know he's on the ballot now. Did he have any allegations or
he did. He had a PED allegation as well.
Just an allegation?
Oh, actually, no. You know what? I don't know if it was an allegation or an official positive test. But again, like that's part of the bullshit time, a bullshit era where it's like they had some tests and there was some stuff released and there was some stuff wasn't, and they were also testing players before they actually banned the use of steroids. And it's like, so they found out some players might have used steroids, but it wasn't illegal at the time. So like, why bother caring?
Reputation. It's really all it did.
That's why I take issue, and I wasn't going to argue with Greg while he was on, because what's the point in it? You know, like he's allowed to have his feelings on the matter. I'm not going to tell him he's wrong necessarily, but I do disagree with the idea, and we talked about this on the show before, of MLB banning players who used PEDs before the MLB actually banned PEDs. How can you retroactively punish somebody for something that was not against the law?
By being a, unicratic dictatorship of a sport that has complete control over its players.
And
is that a rhetorical question?
Yes or no. I'm glad you answered it. So, because Manny Ramirez should probably be in the Hall of Fame. Mark McGwire should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds should definitely be in the Hall of Fame, and Mike Trout will end up in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Please don't come out with a fucking allegation, Mike Trout. Please.
Now let's look at some more arbitrary stats, because some of you might be saying, well, those are all stats that matter. DWAR just doesn't matter. Let's look at arbitrary stats. Let's look at career leaders for games played. 9th most games played in history, Willie Mays. I think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
he's right up there with Ty Cobb for guys that are in, but I've just never heard of him.
Wow, you know what's crazy? You know who number 12 on this list is? Omar Vizquel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, Omar Vizquel should be in the Hall of Fame. Anyway, next up, at-bats. Most at-bats, number 9. Robin Yount, very much so in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he should be. Number 18, Omar Vizquel. Yeah, he's right there. Let's look at career leaders in stolen bases. Number 9 is Max Carey in the Hall of Fame.
I'm unfamiliar.
Who cares? He's in the Hall of Fame. Let's look at a really stupid one. Let's look at career hit by pitches.
Ooh. Hey, let's after that, can we do career catcher's interference?
Ooh, do I have that? Stat? Do I have catcher's interference? I don't see it as an option, but that would be really fun.
Well, what the fuck are we doing here then, Josh, if we don't have catcher's interference?
I don't know. Although I actually found some more interesting stats. I'm going to pull those up too.
What's more interesting than catcher's interference, Joshua?
No, I didn't mean it in the comparative. I meant it in the additive. All right, career leaders for hit by pitch. Number 9 is Frank Robinson, who is also very much so in the Hall of Fame.
Tank?
Yeah, way to go, Frank. Well, you probably got thrown out a lot because you were black, because baseball's pretty racist, but we love you, Frank.
Not because he was fucking massive and just physically took up the entire, area in which they throw the ball.
I choose to believe it's both. Here is our first non-Hall of Famer in the number 9 spot. But we had to go to career sack hits to find it. The career number 9 sack hit leader of all time is Larry Gardner, who amassed 48.2 WAR as a second and third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, Cleveland Indians, and Philadelphia Athletics from 1908 to 1924 as the first guy not in the Hall of Fame that we found. All right, let's keep going. Sack flies.
We did sack hits. We're gonna do sack flies next. What about sacks?
Most sacks.
Yeah. Was that like JJ Watt?
I know fewest sacks is all the guys who took steroids.
Ayo. Well, that's smallest, not fewest. God, Josh.
Fair. Number 9 in sack. So there is no number 9. There's a tie for number 8, and there's number 10. Number 10 fits my narrative, so I'll go with that. It's Andre Dawson, who is also in the Hall of Fame, sitting at 9.5. The reality is the guys tied for 8th are Rafael Palmeiro and Rusty Staub, neither of whom are in the Hall of Fame. But numbers 1 through 6 on this list are all in the Hall of Fame, as is the guy who comes right after them. So still,
all you need.
All right, let's have some fun. Career leaders.
Definitely not.
Career leaders in defensive games played at shortstop. You know who number 1 is?
Who? Omar Vizquel?
Omar Vizquel. Number 2, Derek Jeter in the Hall of Fame. Number 3, Luis Aparicio in the Hall of Fame. Number 4, Ozzie Smith in the Hall of Fame. And number 5, Cal Ripken Jr. in the Hall of Fame.
Huh. Would you
Let's look at career leaders in putouts at shortstop. Number 1 is our good friend Rabbit Marinville, who again I am not convinced actually existed. But our boy Omar is 11th all time, 11th most putouts at shortstop, and he didn't spend his whole career at shortstop.
So what you're saying is Omar Vizquel is a Hall of Famer.
I'm saying there's reason to suspect he might be. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility either. No, am I wrong? Or is there the kid? No, the kids.
No, it's the children that are wrong.
Yeah. Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. All right. Career leaders for assists at shortstop. Number 1, Ozzie Smith in the Hall of Fame. Number 2, Luis Aparicio in the Hall of Fame. Number 3, Omar Vizquel. Number 4 is some guy named Bill Dolan, who's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's followed by our good friend Rabbit Marinville, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Luke Appling, who's also in the Hall of Fame. Bill Dolch actually should totally be in the Hall of Fame. Career OPS plus of 109, career WAR of 75.3. He won the World Series in 1905. And has this dude should actually definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
Should.
Played for 21 seasons for the Chicago Colts. Jesus. Wait, hold on. So the Chicago Colts were a team, that's COLT, all the way until 1897. And then in 1898, they changed their name. You know what they changed it to?
The Chicago Colts?
The Chicago Orphans.
No, they didn't.
I'm looking at fucking Bill Dolan's 1898 season that he played for the Chicago Orphans.
Why?
Who thought that was a good idea? Oh my God! You know who he played for in
Not their
1899?
parents.
Hold on. Do you know who he played for in 1899?
No.
The Brooklyn Superbass.
Shut the fuck up.
Dude, how are there always more teams I didn't know existed? The Brooklyn Superbass? Then he played for the New York Giants. It's like, all right, I know that one. And then he played for the Boston Doves? That's another new one for me. I don't know that one. And he went back to the Brooklyn Superbass in 1910. That team had some staying power. They were around.
What the fuck is baseball, man?
Dude, I don't know. I love it. God damn it, I love this fucking stupid sport. This is the
Emphasis
dumbest
on
sport.
stupid.
This is the dumbest fucking sport, and I love it. Anyway, Omar Vizquel, third for career assists at shortstop. Career leaders in errors. I'm just kind of curious about this one. Is our boy Omar not in the top 10 here? Wow.
Impressive.
Omar is
Not impressive,
100.
but surprising.
Omar is 149th in career errors at shortstop.
Which is great.
Yeah. All right. So where's Ozzie
Ozzie?
Smith? Yeah.
80th. We're on the same page here.
80. Ozzie Smith committed 281 errors. Omar in 5 more seasons committed 183. 100 fewer errors.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually really impressive. Damn. All right, career leaders for most double plays turned as a shortstop. Number 1, Omar Vizquel. By a lot. By 140 double plays.
Well, I mean, that's kind of his whole thing, right?
That was like his signature move. Number 2 is Ozzie Smith, 3 is Cal Ripken, 4 is Luis Aparicio, 5 is Luke Appling, 6 is Derek Jeter, 7 is Alan Trammell. All 6 of those guys, 2 through 7, are in the Hall of Fame.
I don't get why they've chosen Omar to be the kind of like where they're choosing to take their stand. You know?
Well,
why?
It's because, even though him and Ozzie are, I guess, similar in how much they produced as batters, Ozzie's era allowed him to accumulate more WAR while doing basically the same level of production. So therefore, because that and that's what I'm saying. It's really such a stupid distinction because the difference between Ozzie and Omar in terms of their offense doesn't exist. The difference is between how the leagues were doing at the time. And yes, I know Ozzie played in a more pitching heavy era. I understand that. But still, they still put up the same stats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to wash away the effect of the era, but the point is that these are 2 defense first dudes who have so far been top 10 with each other in all the same categories. And we're really going to split hairs on the offense when they were both bad at offense. And we're arguing about who was less bad at offense. That's a stupid point to argue when we're talking about who's going into the Hall of Fame because neither of them are going to the Hall of Fame on their offense. You know?
Right. That's complaining about some superstar, offensive guru's defense. It is literally the same argument, but it's almost never had because it doesn't matter. Offense was so good.
Right. And again, this is the Derek Jeter conversation. There was a bunch of people ragging on Jeter when he was going for when it was his turn to be on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, got in first ballot, because everyone needed to get their rocks off talking about how he wasn't a great defensive shortstop. And it's yeah, we all know that.
No one's ever debated that.
No, at least not anyone who's actually looked at numbers before. Maybe people who don't know and are just looking at all the flashy plays Jeter made think that, but no one who's talking about this subject with any meaningfulness doesn't know that. We're talking about an offense first player going into the Baseball Hall of Fame largely for his offense, plus some very famous defensive plays he made, even if they weren't, overall impactful towards his D-WAR.
Right.
That's the guy. We're talking about Omar because he's a defense first player who never really had offense, but baseball is a complex sport where you can be terrible at one part, be great at the other part, and play for a quarter of a century.
And be a Hall of Fame player for a quarter of a century.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's been around for 150 years. I think their anniversary was just a couple maybe last season or this season. It was pretty recent, I want to say. We're about at 150 years. That means that Omar Vizquel has played in over 10% of baseball history.
Which, I don't know if you know this, is a lot. Hall of Fame numbers, if you will.
I mean, it ain't nothing. Omar Vizquel has appeared in 16% of all MLB seasons.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Wow. That's a huge stat.
And that's including a bunch of those weird 1870s seasons that like had 4 teams and only the Reds were professionals and everyone else was an amateur, where like your dentist was playing shortstop. Like, and again, I'm not saying that he is a shoo-in. It's a disgrace. It's taking him this long. He absolutely deserves to be in. No, because I don't think anybody. I think very few people absolutely deserve to be in. You know, Mariano Rivera absolutely deserved to be in. Larry Walker, I think, I wouldn't even say absolutely. He deserved to be in, but it's not like on its face obvious to ever. Like Hank Aaron just obviously deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying Omar is one of those guys, but I just don't think that he deserves the dismissiveness around him.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Cool. Tight.
Okay, Jake.
Well, hey man, it's Hanukkah. You gotta get your Jew on.
Sandberg, resident Jew.
That's all we need, baby. We need more of that.
More token Jewish people.
I'll take what I can get. You know, there's just not enough Jews on my TV.
Touche.
All right, so we're gonna let's talk about Dick Allen, who was a longtime first baseman and apparently also third baseman and left fielder, which I really didn't know. I always picture him as being the first baseman. But anyway, longtime first baseman, spent most of his career with the Philadelphia Phillies, spent 1 season with the Cardinals, 1 season with the Dodgers, 3 seasons with the White Sox, and then 1 season with Oakland. He played from 1963 to 1977, his age 21 to 35 season. Over that time, he had a slash line of 292, 378, 534, good for an OPS of 912, a career OPS plus of 156. He won the MVP award in 1972 with the White Sox. His season, you might ask, 308, 420 on base percentage, a 603 slugging, good for a 1023 OPS and a 199 OPS plus.
Holy shit. But
yes.
How is his defense?
In 1972, he had a negative 1.3 DWAR. Over his
Get
career,
him out of the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's not in the Hall of Fame. That's the big point of contention. Over the course of his career, he had a 70.2 OR and a negative 16.3 DWAR. I only mentioned since we're kind of talking about DWAR a lot today. Why not bring it up again? But it's also first base, and who gives a shit?
Chris Davis.
It's all I have. Oh, Chris. You're bad at baseball for seemingly no reason. It's very odd. So Dick Allen is not in the Hall of Fame. And it is a very confusing set of circumstances as to why he's not in the Hall of Fame, because what I just read to you is a pretty Hall of Fame resume, one would think. You know, here we got a guy, 7-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year winner, MVP winner, 15 seasons, stupid high numbers. I mean, as compared to the average MLB batter Hall of Famer, his career batting average is 10 points lower, which who gives a shit? His career on base percent is literally like base off by 0.002 in the upper. It's the average Hall of Famer is as a 376 career on base percent. Dick Allen a 378, so he's better. Average MLB Hall of Famer a 465 slugging. Dick Allen 534. Good for an MLB Hall of Fame average OPS of 841. Dick Allen 912. I mean, this is a guy who fucking did nothing but mash, and he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Why? Like, there has to be some reason why, right? Like, it can't be just, oh, numbers didn't add up, this, that, or another thing. There has to be some other layer to it, right?
So, yes, people have been talking a lot about Dick Allen recently, in part because, well, one, he just passed away very recently. Um, uh, he died December 7th. Sorry, like all over the place. So he's been mentioned a lot recently. It just is, in a retrospective, as we consider people who have left us. But he's also been talked a lot about over the last few years because one of the reasons he got omitted from the Hall of Fame at the time when he was on the ballot is because he was often considered a guy who played like Tim Anderson or Fernando Tatis Jr. would. Guys that we are popular in baseball today, who break the unwritten rules. And that was a much bigger deal at the time, I guess. And so he was held out in large part due to, how we look at Curt Schilling?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that's how the voters looked at Dick Allen. But not because he did what Curt Schilling does, which is be a dangerous asshole and proclamate that reporters should be hanged and be the awful human being that he is. He was viewed in that way by voters because he was just a really big personality. And MLB Hall of Fame voters just didn't like that. We know as sports fans that the sports institutions tend to be older, whiter, and more conservative than the average person in the nation. Because, surprise, surprise, those are the people who are leading the nation. Why would they not be also leading your favorite sports institutions? And they kept him out for those reasons. And we can point to Dick Allen's career WAR is only 58.8 instead of the usual Hall of Fame meter of 60 something. And he played first base, and that's not a very Hall of Fame-y position. But that was never the reason. The reason was that Dick Allen was a very large personality. He was a very black person too, at a time full of upheaval in the nation. Now, this is a guy who started his career in 1963. The nation was in flux in 1963. He retired in 1977. A lot of shit went down between 63 and 77. And he was a guy. Oh, everything, man. Shit, you know what? Shit we're still arguing about today. That's what happened in 1963 through 77. And Dick Allen was a black man who was seemingly doing nothing other than enjoy the sport of baseball, at which he was very good, and people took offense to that. And it seems ridiculous looking at it now because it's if Fernando Tatis Jr. and Tim Anderson and guys like this keep doing what they're doing, playing baseball and seemingly just having fun while doing it, but being good at it for a long time, they're going to make the Hall of Fame and no one's going to think fucking twice about it.
Those bastards playing a sport, exceeding and having fun. You fuckers, you can't do that.
I want my baseball players to be as miserable as possible. I want them to hit home runs and hate it. Right? That's how they sound.
100%.
But if Tim Anderson and Fernando Tatis Jr. and who else has a big personality in baseball today? Who else is a big home run celebrator?
Jose Bautista 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's so funny. Those two dudes came to mind, and then my mind ran a blanc.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But that's basically that's the controversy that was around Dick Allen, and the fact that it's still a controversy, i.e., that the Hall of Fame, or the what do they call the era
committee?
Adjusting? Yeah, what's that committee called? The fucking
I don't know.
The committee in charge of putting in players who got overlooked at their time.
Oh, the Party Planet Committee,
Yeah. The
formerly
problem
known
solvers.
as the committee in charge of parties.
Yeah. They haven't put him in, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to put him in after he died, and that's great, but that's also bullshit. Let the man enjoy it. Let people make the Hall of Fame while they're alive to actually see it, instead of
Especially when
forcing.
they're so deserving of it. Like, one thing for a guy to make it who's, it takes some deliberation to really determine that value, or maybe the value was different back in the day. But when it's a guy who's so clearly deserving of it, what the hell reason do you have for, not doing so? Sorry, cut you off,
No,
but
no, no, no. You do not need to apologize for that, because I mean, I'm like, Roberto Clemente made it in the Hall of Fame after he died because he died while he was still playing. Like, there was
right.
nothing any of us could have done about it. But we're seeing this a lot with like it still pisses me off every time I think about it that Buck O'Neill's not in the Hall of Fame. And that he died before he got to see it. And he was on the ballot in 2006. I think that was the year anyway. And to get in through the fucking old timers committee or whatever the hell they call it, of people who got missed during the time. And this is Buck fucking O'Neill, one of the best players in the Negro Leagues during his playing time. He was the player manager of the Kansas City Monarchs, the most famous baseball team of all time. He was the first black MLB scout. He was the first black MLB coach. He started the Negro League Baseball Museum. I mean, this is a colossal figure in the world of baseball. And they kept him out of the Hall for I have no idea what reason. Makes no fucking sense. That
Is he
they didn't let
still?
a man who devoted his entire life to baseball enter into the Hall of Fame while he was alive to see it. And he's since passed, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame. And if at some point MLB gets its head out of its fucking ass and puts Buck O'Neill in the Hall of Fame, it's going to be too little too late. It's going to, of course, be appreciated. It'll be a great honor for Buck O'Neill's family. It'll give me a reason to reminisce about what Buck O'Neill, a man I never met, means to me as a person. I have a framed Buck O'Neill jersey in my apartment. I have a signed Buck O'Neill picture in my apartment. I love Buck O'Neill for what he did for baseball as a player, as a manager, as a coach, as a black man, and as a historian. I mean, he's literally one of the main voices in Ken Burns' baseball documentary. And MLB can't get its own foot out of its own ass. They do this to people all the time. Marvin Miller, the guy that started the MLB PA, didn't get in until after he died. We're seeing tons of Negro League baseball players being added now. That's all well and good. They are dead. And they were asking for this type of recognition well before they passed away. And MLB is always dropping the ball on these people. And while, Dick Allen might not be the biggest name of some of the names that I just mentioned, it still matters.
Right. It always will. And it's ridiculous how many conversations we have to have seemingly every single week about how significantly MLB has dropped the ball, or is currently dropping the ball, or is about to drop the ball, because it just seems to be endless at this point. It's just a constant cycle.
I fucking know, man. And it's so upsetting because, while it might seem like something as minor as, like making the Hall of Fame or not making the Hall of Fame when you had a good career, you can always look back on your career no matter what. I'm not sure what that looks like as a guy who did that. I'm not sure how Larry Walker viewed his career the year before he made the Hall of Fame versus how he looks back on his career after he made the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure if that changes anything to him personally in retrospect versus how he gets to feel being in the Hall of Fame and having that knowledge going forward. But at the same time, it still means something to be validated by the organization that you devoted a colossal chunk of your life to. And it's not even your playing years. These people who are playing baseball today and who have been playing baseball for the past 70 fucking years probably spent their entire lives before they joined the MLB playing baseball. Like Mike Trout didn't just start devoting his life to baseball at age 18 or whatever he got drafted. He's been devoting his life to baseball since he was 4 or whatever, I'm guessing. Like, getting to the Hall of Fame doesn't just validate your playing time with MLB, it validates your life mission in a lot of ways, and that the work was worth it. And Dick Allen's never going to get that. And he's never going to get that because MLB is ridiculously stupid when it comes to honoring its most valuable players at a time when it's necessary. And it's ridiculously stupid because it is another reminder that the MLB MLB integrated at a time when it was actually still when it was still really controversial for it to do so, and has never been in front of the ball on race since. Because this is just another reminder of a guy who was held back in a very white sport because he was black, and for like no other reason. Because that's the only reason Dick Allen isn't in the Hall of Fame. And God damn it, if they can't just get out of their own way and be more moral and just going forward to keep me from having to shit on my favorite sport, it is ridiculous.
It's indefensible. Like, it really is. Like, there's no reason for any of this. There's no reason for it. Like, reason it should be.
No. And I look forward to this next Hall of Fame season because I'm sure we're going to see Dick Allen get a little bit more recognition from the league, which I will always take and which will be greatly appreciated, but is still just it's still gonna upset me, and I just don't know what they're waiting for,
They're waiting for the money to care as much as people care, which unfortunately is not a change that's going to overnight. Well, I feel like it can happen overnight. I just don't think it will, because why would they? Why would they make that active change without being pushed to do so?
Seriously, it's this is the same fucking thing that they did to Minnie Minoso too. It's
I am unfamiliar.
Minnie Minoso was a baseball player. He was still a Negro leaguer. Like, that's how long ago he had played. So oh God, who did he play for at the Negro Leagues? I think the New York Cuban Giants, I want to say. Let me look up his page. He played for the New York Cubans. I think that's the only Negro League team here. I think. Yeah, so he played for the New York Cubans, and then he was a White Sox for like ever. He was with Cleveland and then Chicago, and then back to Cleveland, back to Chicago. He was all over the place, but he was one of the first like big Latin-born stars. He was from Cuba, and was just a really fucking good baseball player for the time that he was in the majors. Accumulated over 50 WAR, 130 career OPS plus, 9-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover, and he died in 2015 and didn't make the Hall of Fame in his lifetime, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame, which is and you can look at that 50 career WAR and say, well, that's too low. But here's a guy who got shunted from the MLB at the start of his career because he is a very dark-skinned Hispanic man, and was forced to be a part of the Negro Leagues at when he first started playing, which, again, huge fan of the Negro Leagues, but at the same time it was something born out of hatred, and that there's there's nothing wrong with playing the Negro Leagues because it was full of phenomenal fucking athletes, but you're there because you have to be, you know. And so he lost playing years because of that, and still managed to accumulate over 50 WAR in the MLB, which is a huge accomplishment. And it's never made the Hall of Fame. He's one of the most famous White Sox of all time. He's one of the most famous.
Well, that's not saying much. Sorry.
Actually, that's I don't know. That's saying a lot. There's some really famous fucking White Sox out there. But anyway, he was a huge Negro League star, especially because he was in the Negro Leagues at the point at which they were switching over to becoming MLB stars, which gave a lot of prominence to which players were coming from the Negro Leagues. But yeah, it's just a fucking kick in the teeth to see the MLB keep doing this. But
right,
that's baseball.
That's Dallas.
That's baseball, Susan. Don't you hate it?
Yes.
Oh man. All right. Well, that was a lot more rambling than I thought I was going to do, so I apologize.
No, that's why we're here.
So we didn't get to talk about Mark Buehrle's case for the Hall of Fame, including his perfect game. We'll try to get to that. We have plenty of time before the voting happens, and we'll obviously keep it updated after the voting comes in, which should be in like a month or two. I think it's like late January, early February. I'm not sure that we have any shoo-ins. The only reason we got any,
so.
Unless there's a huge change of heart with the steroids guys, I don't think there's any obvious cases here. So it makes it more interesting for us to talk about since we don't have to just go like, oh well, yeah, Mo's going in. Like, of course, Mo's getting in.
Right.
So.
I feel like we definitely are going to need to take another podcast just to focus on the steroids issue, and Mark Buehrle, of course, and just like there's so many other players up for consideration that we talked about like two of them. It's really one plus Allen. So we'll be talking about this a lot more. To make a short story short.
Absolutely, I agree. It's a shame that there's no shoo-ins because I think there's a couple that Corwin and I are going to agree should certainly be in outside of the steroids guys, but we will get to those players in time. So anything else to say before we get out of here, Corwin?
No.
All right, well, if you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Thursday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.